I'm well. How are you doing?
Monday doesn't feel right without Tim Tebow in the conversation, does it?
A day of the week that ends in Y doesn't feel right without us talking about something Chip Kelly did.
That is true. I mean, he was in here about a month ago. Did you think that it was a possible sign with?
Yeah, I mean, you don't work somebody out and not have at least the idea of, you might sign the guy, especially if when you work him out, you like what you saw. So, I mean, it makes they need a quarterback, another quarterback, because Sam Bradford is not going to take a lot of reps at camp. So they have space. They have room to add a quarterback. They can still do that in the draft. And if they do that in the draft, maybe that changes things. I don't know. I don't look at the Tim Tebow signing as he's definitely here for the long haul, but he's here for now.
All right, Geoff. He might not be here for the long haul. They get 53 men. Do you think that he has a shot, or is he just here because, like you said, they need some arms?
He's got a shot. I mean, let's say, let's, for argument's sake, talk about Bradford and Sanchez as your top two quarterbacks going into the year, because that's most likely the scenario. They may draw the guy, not named Marcus Mariota, whether it's like a Brandon Bridge, Brian Bennett type, Cody Fajardo, developmental guy in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, and think that guy is better off on the practice squad, and then it still leaves them with a number 3 quarterback to fill. So now you're talking about G.J. Kinney, who I just, there's a report that they even look at him as more of a versatile guy who can do other things too. So you still have that number 3 quarterback void between the rookie you may draft, G.J. Kinney, Matt Barkley, who's probably not long for the team, and that's not much of a competition, especially if you're trying to get rid of Matt Barkley, or if you just don't see any point in keeping him for a third year if you're never going to develop him or believe he's going to be on your team. So you got Tim Tebow, sure, why not have him compete?
Yeah, and listen, look, I know Tebow is not a conventional player. You can't judge him as a conventional player, but if I told you, Mosher, take Tim Tebow out of it, he's 8-6, he won a playoff game, he's accounted for 29 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. If that was your third-string quarterback, regardless of who he is, isn't that a better player than you currently have?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're asking, is Tim Tebow better than Matt Barkley?
Or any third-string quarterback. I mean,
or any, but yeah, I mean, I guess it would depend on what team we're talking about. Some teams have some pretty decent. They draft a rookie and make him the third-string quarterback. A year or two. I can't think of all of them right now, but I guess Tim Tebow in Chip Kelly's schemes could certainly be, especially if they use him in a versatile way, could be a better third quarterback than 90% of them that are out there.
There's no doubt. I mean, and you look at it like this, it's obvious that let's say this, what do you think Chip Kelly's reasoning for bringing him in? Just, hey, we have a chance to upgrade a position. Let's take a look. And if not, no harm, no foul. Is that as simple as that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no downside. There's just no downside to it. Well, I mean, everybody talks about the distraction and the media circus. I don't know if that's really as much of an issue with Tim Tebow now as it was 3 or 4 years ago, because he's been out of the game for 2 years now. Could be naivety on my part. We'll find out. But when he went to the training camp with the Patriots 2 years ago and they held the joint practices, there weren't a lot of people talking to Tim Tebow. You know what I'm saying? Like, there were a lot of people talking to Tom Brady, and Sam Bradford's not Tom Brady, but there's certainly enough intrigue around him, and there will be enough intrigue around him for his first training camp, that I don't think the Tim Tebow story is going to be all that big or distracting or a media circus. If anything, it's probably distracting for Mark Sanchez, because he's got to be in the same conversation, same locker room with the guy again after that kind of uncomfortable stint together 2 years ago. But, to me, I just don't see a downside. And I only see an upside if whatever Chip does makes Tim Tebow better than he was, because a lot of people didn't think Mark Sanchez was going to be all that much better than he was. And he came in here and he completed 64% of his passes. And I didn't love what Mark Sanchez did because he still threw a lot of picks and he was a real dink and dunker. But the bottom line is he completed 64% of his passes. So he was better than he came as average. He was better than he came.
Yeah. Now, here's an interesting thing. A lot of people rip Tebow. He's only completed about 47% of his passes in the NFL. When he was at Florida, he completed 66% of his passes. Mm-hmm. If you put Tebow in the right situation, do you think that he could be a better NFL player than he has displayed in terms of his passing?
I don't know. I mean, even if he's improved a little bit, he's now 2 years older and hasn't played in 2 years. So, I mean, you're kind of starting from scratch with him, I think, here, bringing him into training camp. The idea that we were talking about what he would do in an NFL game is kind of scary. I mean, I really don't think that's the direction that the Eagles are going in, unless they get a lot of injuries at the position. Then again, the way Chip has stockpiled players with injury histories, maybe they will be going in that direction. But no, I mean, I really think we're talking about ground zero here with Tebow and kind of throwing something against the wall to see if it sticks because you have the ability to do that.
Geoff Mosher, CSNPhilly.com. Eagles insider is, of course, the Eagles signed Tim Tebow. And, the chances of him making this team, I guess, 50-50? I mean, he goes into camp, he compete. Do you think he makes it to training camp?
Yeah, I think he makes it to training camp. Sure.
And he competes for that third job.
It's not like you have to cut anybody before training camp starts. You got 90 guys until that first round of cuts, which is like 4 weeks in. So, get that to me in late early July, early August, and I'll give you a better answer. But I think he's here. Why not? Why not give him every single chance? When you have a guy who has enough versatility, and the game is versatile, and Chip schemes capitalize on it, why not give him every single chance to see what he's got and what kind of improvements he might make?
Geoff, by the way, he will wear number 11. No word on whether his jerseys will be available at the Pro Shop right next to Sam Bradford's, which I guess still aren't hanging there yet. But that being said, was he at the workouts today? Do we know that? I know they had their workouts this morning, right?
Yeah, I wasn't there, but I mean, he was here yesterday, so I have no reason to believe that he wasn't back. I mean, he signed his contract today at the NovaCare, so I imagine he was there.
Gotcha. Let's go to Mathis here. He did not show up. Is that a surprise? He did show up last year. We know his name has been mentioned a lot. Is there some red flags now that he is not here?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all, Mike. I mean, I think that this script is not going to follow. The script started to look like the same script as last offseason. He did go to the organization last offseason for a better contract. They said no. They encouraged him to shop around, find a better offer. Said they would trade him if they could get something in return. Nothing happened. But the thing is, he reported he was the good soldier about it. He felt that if he played the good soldier, maybe something good will happen. Then he goes, and even though he misses 7 games, he makes the Pro Bowl again, and he winds up getting the same response. So to me, that says that the Eagles aren't really dying to keep the guy. I'm not saying they're dying to get rid of him, but they're not really. They're not going to redo his contract. We know that. So, and they've already, they gave Connor Barwin a little more money and some guarantees, and they won't do it for Evans. So, to me, they're moving on, and they'll have him back as long as he wants to be back. So now it's kind of like the ball's in your court, Evans. So Evans now saying, well, if the ball's in my court, I'm not showing up.
What's the plan?
What happens from there?
What's the plan if he does not come back? You have your 2 starting guards from a year ago out.
The plan, and I believe this is the plan fully, Mike, is that you're going to see at least 2 offensive linemen drafted in the first 4 rounds of this draft. It's a great offensive line draft, and I would handicap right now that their first round pick, 60% offensive line. That's how strong I am that they're going to address the offensive line.
And obviously, that's an area where they're going to need some help because they're getting older on that offensive line. Jason Peters getting older as well. Evan Mathis is probably one of the reasons they don't, care or aren't all that aggressive in bringing him back. It's one of the reasons why Harriman's is gone. Really, the one young guy is Lane Johnson on that line. So I agree with you, Moshe. I think those middle rounds, you could be seeing some interior linemen getting picked by Philadelphia. Moving forward here, you look at the NFL draft coming up, and obviously they're in a situation where they could go at any spot. You just said 60% you think on an offensive line, but do you take a guard in the first round?
Well, I think, and I'm not necessarily a proponent of this unless the guy has the experience, but it's very possible they take a tackle and start him off the guard. And, a guy that really jumps out to me is, I have trouble pronouncing his name, the A&M kid, Cedric Ogbuye, who a lot of scouts have told me that they think he's actually the second best offensive tackle in the entire draft, but he does have the ACL that he's coming off. And he started off a guard. He's a little bit, he's not like a 320-pound Waller. He's a little bit smaller and quicker, which is actually perfect for what Chip Kelly does, to be honest with you, especially if you're starting him off at guard. So I have a feeling that's the kind of guy, if they can get that they would really take, they would have a trouble passing up on. Maybe the kid T.J. Clemmings, who projects as a right tackle. Maybe you could start him off at right guard. He's a real plowing type offensive lineman. But I sense that they would take a tackle and start him at guard as long as they feel that the guy can make that transition.
Geoff Mosher's with us, CSNPhilly.com, Eagles insider. The Eagles start their offseason workouts today. What exactly, for the listeners out there who are excited for a little football being back, what exactly are these offseason workouts and how long do they last?
You're testing my knowledge of the CBA here. All right, so the first phase, which started today, is called Phase 1, 2 weeks long, and activities are limited to strength and conditioning and rehabbing an injury. So you can only really work with the strength and conditioning coaches for 2 weeks. And then Phase 2 allows players to start doing individual drills. You want to go out on the field and you're a wide receiver, you want to catch some passes from a quarterback, you can do that. I believe coaches can be present for it. I'm not sure if they can be giving you much instruction other than supervising, but there's no team drills, there's no 7-on-7s or anything like that. That stuff happens when Phase 3 commences, and that's the mini camps.
Cool. Let's get your take. I know.
Did I break that down well?
Yeah, you made enough. You made enough sense that I'm ready to move on to something else.
I don't blame you.
I know you guys over at Comcast Sportsnet got a chance to catch up with D'Amico, and I want to get your opinion on that situation with Kendricks, Alonzo, and D'Amico, and where D'Amico is. Is he a guy that's a factor, for opening day? I mean, is there any worry that he's not going to be ready?
He said his surgery this time around, his recovery and rehab, is better and faster than first time around in 2010. And he said he will be full go for training camp. And he even mentioned being eased in during the mini camps. So you might see him in the mini camps, not in I don't think in any of the 7-on-7s or 11-on-11s, but jumping in there for a drill, a position drill, individual drill, just to kind of get the feel back and everything. So he said he feels great and stronger, and that he's fully confident he'll be ready to go for the season.
How strong do you feel that Kendricks will be here or be gone?
I wrestle with this. D'Amico seems to think that there's a great rotation. I can understand the idea of Kendricks being a really good nickel and dime linebacker, so no hurry to get rid of him. But he also has really good value right now. He played really well last year when he was healthy, and teams, it's not like inside linebackers grow on trees. Good one. So I have to think that somewhere along that 3-day draft in a week that a team's going to say, I didn't get the inside linebacker I wanted. Michael Kendricks is there. Maybe I can get something going on with the Eagles and make a trade, and something can't get worked out. Because, like I said, the value for Mike is probably at its all-time high right now. And so if you're not going to start him, then and you get a good offer, I would trade him. So I do think that it's more likely than not that he's going to get dealt.
I know he was a complete flop last year, but Marcus Smith was the first-round pick. Do you believe he has any future here?
It's hard for me to say it without seeing him. The one thing that stuck out to me when I met him for the first time last year and saw him was that and Trey Thomas kind of hit this on the head a few weeks back or a month or two ago when he said it. He didn't look like an NFL player from a body frame standpoint. He looked too livy, too lanky. You know what I'm saying? Length is good, but he didn't have bulk. And then when I went to the Senior Bowl and talked to, there's another outside linebacker from Louisville who's going to get drafted. I can't remember his name. I want to say Lorenzo Malden, right? And that guy is 6'4", 255. He's built like an outside linebacker. And he was talking about how he believes in Marcus Smith, and they were roommates. And I'm looking at him saying, this guy to me looks like an NFL player because he's rock solid. And it just reminded me that Mark Smith had a lot of his problems, I think, were not just mental, but the fact that his body was not ready to play in the NFL. So if he put on weight this offseason and he got his body closer to where it should be, then I think it'll give him the confidence for the mental part can come along. At least he'll feel like he fits inside that locker room. But if he's still kind of skinny, underweight, almost Deion Jordan-like. You remember that Deion Jordan a couple years ago? Everybody thought he was going to be great, but he was another skinny, kind of lengthy guy that hasn't really carved his niche in the NFL. Then I think it's going to be an issue if his weight's that down.
Geoff Mosher, CSN Philly Eagles insider. Mosher Monday here. Where are you on Mariota? Do you think that dream still lives, or is it fading as we get closer, or is it gaining more steam as we get closer?
well, like I said to you before, I personally have always felt that he's going number 1 overall to Tampa. So if that's the case, then there's no way the Eagles are going to get him. I'd not slam the door out because, A, I could be wrong, and B, you never know what can happen in the draft. I don't see how the Eagles can get him without getting really, really creative and maybe bringing a third team into the mix. But the bottom line is the Browns still have 2 first-round picks, and if they want Mariota more than they've wanted Bradford, then they have a better shot to get him. And maybe some other teams, I know the Saints have 2 first-round picks, so it's a big mountain to summit for the Eagles if they really want to get Mariota, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of these 3-team rumors that are just kind of getting thrown up against the wall, of course, with San Diego, Tennessee being 2 of the names mentioned with Rivers out there. And you wonder how much Rivers wants out of there. I guess he doesn't want to go to L.A. if their team is looking to move there. So I guess we'll keep an eye on that. But I find that will be a fascinating Thursday night leading up to that second pick to see who makes that pick and what happens once it happens, because Tennessee could still make the pick and still make a deal.
Yeah, that to me is a really interesting and underrated or underreported element, I think. Kind of like how the Giants picked Phillip Rivers number 1 overall in, 2003 or 4, and then traded him to San Diego. You know, that was the Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning deal, basically. And I still remember Eli Manning holding up the Chargers jersey with not a smile on his face because he didn't want to go there. So I agree with you. I think that's a potential that someone can get drafted and then immediately traded.
Geoff Mosher over at CSN Philly. Of course, Tim Tebow has officially signed. The Eagles have sent out an email press release at 3:51 today. He has become an official member of the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, Moshe, enjoy the rest of your Tebow.
I appreciate it. I'm going to go pray.